All right, kids. In 1996, a man by the name of Robert Jordan took an exam to become a police officer in New London, Connecticut, and was rejected after he scored too high on an intelligence test. Jordan sued New London, claiming that his civil rights were violated because he was denied equal protection under the law. Well, a lower court said that the city did not discriminate against him because the same standards were applied to everyone who took that test. And a second court upheld that decision. See, Jordan, who was 49 years old and a college graduate by the time this ABC News report came out, scored 33 points, the equivalent of an IQ of 125. But New London police interviewed only candidates who scored 20 to 27, on the theory that those who scored too high could get bored with police work and leave soon after undergoing costly training. Are you aware of what I just told you? A court said it's okay to bar high IQs for cops. With that said,
Ma'am, you know why I'm standing here?
You got all C's in high school?
today we're going to talk about police brutality, use of excessive force, and extrajudicial killings by, in this case, the federal government. I'm recording this a few days after ICE agent Jonathan Ross killed Nicole Good in Minneapolis, who was shot in the head as she attempted to drive off, later crashing into a parked car down the street. And look, with such a heavy topic, I'm going to try to make light of tragedy. I don't want to undermine what something like this means for the future of our country or overlook the days, weeks, months, and years in the past that led to this, which means that I need to find jokes wherever I can. Lucky for us, they're in Border Patrol uniforms. Oh!
Just seems like a good time to mention that there's a new report out about the caliber of recruits that ICE is taking in. One DHS official themselves said, quote, "We have people failing open book tests, and we have folks that can barely read or write English." Excuse me?
A Daily Mail report found that the Trump administration's $50,000 signing bonus attracted many unqualified recruits. High school grads who can barely read or write, overweight candidates with doctor's notes saying they're unfit, and even applicants with pending criminal charges. This Raw Story article would go on to say training was slashed from 6 weeks to 6, with sit-ups eliminated because recruits couldn't handle them. They're not sending their best. The narrative has been comply or die. Abide by law enforcement's instructions and you get to keep your life. Keep in mind, when the New York Post says Good allegedly tried to mow down Ross with her SUV, that someone with his history should know better than to walk in front of moving vehicles or in traffic. Unless he deliberately stepped in the path of cars, apparently to justify shooting at the drivers. It's already clear that these federal agents receive little training and apparently have almost no understanding of what they're being taught. However, I thought we got the message about what to do when staring down the barrel of a car 24 years ago.
No joke, I told you some of my best music is written in the car. I'm driving on the highway one day, just frustrated. And again, authentically, organically, somebody's in front of me. And while I'm writing to this track, it just occurred to me, just move, bitch, get out the way. And it stuck.
Let's get started. Among the many angles of Renee Good's final moments alive on Earth, the one that's most telling was from Jonathan Ross's cell phone. He got out of his vehicle, walked around Renee's while filming with his phone in his right hand. She says,
"That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you."
As he goes to the back of her Honda Pilot and encounters her wife. And before I continue, Jonathan Ross recorded her license plate. He knew the make and model of her car. A family member of hers was already near him, whether or not Renee Good was being detained at that time, and it wouldn't have been due to her committing a violent crime. There was no reason for a federal agent to go anywhere near the front of her car. He could have easily let her go and caught back up to her later at her house or at her job, if she did anything that warranted her arrest.
I used to be a police officer. Let's talk about a phrase called officer-induced jeopardy. This means that if someone is trying to evade you with a car, and their intention to evade you is clear, and they pose no continuing threat to other officers or the community, and you move in front of the car that's attempting to evade, you have now put yourself in jeopardy and you cannot claim self-defense.
This is what happens when you can't get hoes in your own area code. I'll get back to that TikTok later. Jonathan Ross has had a run-in involving a car before. In Bloomington, Minnesota, last June, ICE agents had conducted a traffic stop on who is being described as a serial illegal immigrant from Guatemala with a lengthy rap sheet. Ross broke the back driver's side window after the assailant refused to exit his vehicle when officers approached his car. The suspect then sped away with Ross's arm caught between the seat and the car frame, dragging him more than 100 yards. That's worse than the dragging he's getting online right now, sure, but he was hospitalized with significant injuries to his arm and hand, requiring 33 stitches, but made a full recovery. However, that's not what happened with Renee Good. She was neither a criminal or engaging in criminal activity. Again, going back to Ross's POV, he switches his phone to his left hand, keeping his right hand free to grab his service weapon. When another federal agent reaches for Renee's door handle, Ross reaches for his gun. Why?
Did you know that in 2014, an internal review of the U.S. Border Patrol found that on 67 different occasions during a 2-year period, that U.S. border agents intentionally stepped in front of moving vehicles just to justify shooting the people in them? Yeah.
That review was completed in February of 2013 by the Police Executive Research Forum. Experts from that group were allowed to examine internal border control case files on 67 shooting incidents from January 2010 to October 2012. The authors recommended training agents to, quote, get out of the way, as opposed to intentionally assuming a position in the path of such vehicles.
Oh, get out the way.
Add that to the fact, it should be recognized that a half-ounce, 200-grain bullet is unlikely to stop a 4,000-pound moving vehicle, and if the driver is disabled by a bullet, the vehicle will become a totally unguided threat, which would be why Officer Ross aimed at Renee Good's face. And real quick, for the civilians and pedestrians who didn't listen to Luda, what are they allowed to do in similar situations?
Hey, look! Whoa! Hey, look at down! Hit me? You fucking ran me off. What's your Oh, hell no! Oh my God!
Just like these untrained individuals, Jonathan Ross, a 43-year-old, an officer of the law who has been an ICE agent since 2013 and is an Iraq War veteran, placed himself in harm's way. He stood in front of Renee Good's car on the driver's side, her left. She steered her vehicle to the right in order to avoid him before accelerating. And yes, the side of her car, her left, near the wheel well and fender, struck him. Not necessarily the front bumper. He didn't risk life and limb. He positioned himself accordingly on purpose. And after shooting an unarmed woman who was trying to get away from him, he called her a... Then he walked over to her car after it came to a complete stop without so much as limping to see if she lived, without administering aid. He's the bitch who needed to move. Columbus residents know this all too well. In August of 2023, Officer Connor Grubb shot and killed Takia Young along with her unborn child during an encounter at a Kroger parking lot after employees said she stole bottles of alcohol. After reviews of the Ohio Peace Officers Training Manual, it says officers should avoid standing directly in front of the suspect. The township's use of force rules say nothing in this policy requires an officer to retreat or be exposed to possible physical injury before applying reasonable force. In body cam footage worn by Officer Grubb, you can see that he is standing in front of the driver's side, Takia's left. She turns the steering wheel to the right before accelerating, and that's when he kills her. You cannot just let someone go, the union leader said. You can't just say, well, they're resisting me. They're not listening to my commands. Now I'm just going to step away and let them leave. That's not what law enforcement does, said Brian Steele, Executive Vice President of the local Fraternal Order of Police. The thing about that is, you can let her go. She was nonviolent, even when not complying. They had a physical description of her, along with the make and model of the car she was driving, and the license plate number. I can't stress enough, they absolutely could have stepped away. Besides, as Takia Young's attorney points out, Grubb absolutely shoots from a position where he's almost on the side of the car, if not on the side of the car. Connor Grubb was cleared of wrongdoing. A review board found that he did not violate department policy. We'll see what happens with Jonathan Ross. A court case called Graham versus Connor dictates that federal courts analyze officers' use of force to determine whether the force used was objectively reasonable at the time of the incident, without analyzing, in hindsight, whether the officer could have made better tactical choices managing the situation. State criminal courts do not apply these federal standards, and civil rights claims being brought are quite different from criminal prosecution standards that can vary from state to state. As I alluded to earlier, the phrases officer-created jeopardy or officer-induced jeopardy describe actions taken by police officers that increase the risk of injury to the officer and escalate the probability of use of lethal force by officers, which may have been avoided had the officer not placed himself or herself in a self-created dangerous situation. Examples of officer-created jeopardy, according to policemag.com, include, but are not limited to, standing or moving in front of a suspect's vehicle while the engine is running, or reaching into a vehicle that is attempting to flee in a last-ditch attempt to pull the fleeing suspect out of the vehicle. The things that Jonathan Ross and whoever was with him did. And my local U.S. representative voted to express gratitude to ICE. Joyce Beatty, move!
Well, as you can see, there's a bitch in his way that he needs to move.
The report about Border Patrol's use of deadly force that I alluded to a few minutes ago. Yeah, U.S. Customs and Border Protection tried to prevent that report, the one that they commissioned, from coming to light. The LA Times obtained the full report, and the response rejects two major recommendations: barring border agents from shooting at vehicles unless its occupants are trying to kill them, and barring agents from shooting people who throw things that cannot cause serious physical injury. House and Senate oversight committees requested copies years ago, but received only a summary that omitted the most controversial findings. These federal agents are cartoonishly evil and stupid.
I'm here working. You're working too, right? Right. So go, it says U.S. Border Patrol. This is not the border. Go to the Canada border or the Mexico border. I'm working, dude. If you were from this country, what do you mean? What do you mean if I'm from this country?
I can hear you don't have the same accent as me. That's why I'm
Oh, so you're going by accents now? Is that what it is?
Oh, y agarraron a alguien. Ah, por... Ay.
¿Qué? ¿Por qué?
Agarraron a alguien, llevan a alguien.
¿Cierto?
You just saw ICE tripping on ice, and an agent slip and fall, landing on his back, then walk a handcuffed woman into a singular porta potty while another agent sat in the car. They're perpetually minutes away from slipping on banana peels or craving lasagna and complaining about Mondays. It's a joke about them being lazy. Y'all, I'm trying. For all intents and purposes, I should be making this episode about Keith Porter Jr., a 43-year-old man who was fatally shot by an off-duty ICE agent on New Year's Eve. His death may have marked the first recorded account of an immigration officer killing a U.S. citizen under President Donald Trump. News about him didn't spread far and wide until after Renee Nicole Good was shot. And there could be multiple reasons for that. One, the media is spread thin. Two, Porter was shooting an AK-47 in the air when celebrating the new year. And three, he's a black man. Witnesses said that he didn't point his weapon at the agent who happened to live in his complex and began investigating once he heard gunshots. LAPD said the agent identified himself before ordering Porter to put his gun down. When he failed to comply, the agent opened fire. I question how much being armed has an impact to law enforcement. We've seen cell phones in the hands of black men have that same effect. R.I.P. Andre Hill. Still, for too long it was all lives matter, white lives matter. We're victims of police brutality too, for too much of middle America that voted for this current administration. Did they get the message yet?
Shame on you.
Listen, have y'all not learned from the past couple of days
Have you not learned?
Learned what? What's our lesson here? What do you want us to learn?
Following federal agents.
Give me my phone.
Now, in the background of this interview, you could see that police car. And now right here, we're showing you video we have immediately after the interview finished. Plickta was arrested by 2 Grand Rapids police officers. You can see it in the video, and an officer tells Plickta that she is being arrested for obstructing a roadway and failure to obey a lawful command from a police officer. You can see as she's taken away in that car, she was issuing a number of messages.
As I prepare to roll out, you should know that the average exam score nationally for police officers is 21 to 22, the equivalent of an IQ of 104, or just a little above average. And in the report I keep bringing up, border agents opened fire on rock throwers 22 times in fiscal year 2012. It did not say how many people were injured by the rock assaults or by the gunfire. A news station reviewed U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement directives that govern agents' use of force when encounters involve moving vehicles. ICE's directive page was temporarily unavailable a few days ago. But a 2023 Government Accountability Office report quotes ICE's guidance directly. Firearms shall not be discharged solely to disable moving vehicles, vessels, aircraft, or other conveyances, except when deadly force is authorized or under the limited circumstances in the policy. The song was repurposed in Atlanta as Move Trump in 2017. Ludacris approved. And when Drink Champs asked Ludacris if the bitch ever moved, Chris said, that bitch never moved. I'll be honest, I don't want her to move. That is a movement. As long as she don't move, people are going to continue to tell her to move. The moment they move, she might stop. That's all I got. We gonna be all right.